as this watch community has grown and as this YouTube channel has gotten bigger, there's one question that I'm hit with more often than not, and that is, what is the best entry-level luxury watch? And that's quite a difficult question to answer. I mean, what defines luxury? So today, we're going to be discussing my top 5 picks for entry-level luxury watches. Welcome back to the Chisholm Hunter channel. My name is Harrison, as always, and we are going to start from the beginning. We're going to start with the least expensive model and then go up the ranks, go up the price brackets. Now, all of these models that I've picked are all below £5,000. In fact, I think they're all below £3,000, as that's what I would consider entry-level luxury watches. But remember, guys, that this is subjective. An entry-level watch to me would probably be around a Tissot, maybe £500, £550, whereas for you, it might be more expensive or it might be less expensive. I just want you to remember that this is subjective, but hopefully this gives you a little bit of a steer. Let's begin at number 1. Let's begin with Hamilton. Now, Hamilton are an extremely famous brand for a variety of different reasons, and if you've been paying attention, you might have seen them in several movies. Let's talk about Interstellar. Let's talk about Men in Black. They're featured in both of these movies, and they are an entry-level Swiss or luxury watch. Now, the most popular model in their arsenal is the Hamilton Khaki Field. The Hamilton Khaki Field is a field watch, meaning it's kind of built for the military. It has a simplistic design and is built for reading the time and nothing else, and reading it very, very clearly while on the move. It is quite a small, compact model. They come in at 38mm or 42mm. The prices roughly vary from about £400 to £700, but that's whether you want a NATO strap, a bracelet, a leather strap, or you want a mechanical movement or an automatic movement. Now, the reason that I would consider Hamilton such an incredible entry-level brand is, firstly, their watches are fantastic for the money. I own a Hamilton Khaki Field. I own the mechanical version with a NATO strap, and it has lasted me so long. Now, there's a story that goes with that, but I'll save that for another video. It also has, Hamilton as a brand has amped amounts of history. It was actually founded in 1892 in Pennsylvania before it got brought into Swatch Group and went over to Switzerland. You were getting a brilliant Swiss-made movement, and although it might be an ETA, they are tried and tested, are fantastic powerhouses of movements. You get 80 hours of power with some of these bad boys, and that's for almost like £420. That's great. Next up is a watch that needs no introduction because it's actually on my wrist at the moment. It is the Tissot Powermatic 80, the Tissot PRX Powermatic 80. And this actually falls under the Swatch Group as well. It is a Swiss-made luxury watch. It comes in at £565 for the Powermatic 80 version. Now, the Tissot PRX actually comes in a couple of different colors. It comes in black, it comes in blue, and it comes in green. So whatever you want, whatever color suits you, you can kind of pick. I personally picked the green. With that said, it also has a 70s inspired design, which you can't really find on watches at this price. When you think of 70s inspired Genta designs, you think of AP, Patek Philippe, Vacheron Constantin, all of which are a lot of money. And then you come down to £465 and you've got something that looks as good for that price. It's pretty phenomenal. And then you move on to the dial. It actually has a waffle dial with a sunray pattern running through. You have some beautiful depth on that dial. And then you have a date window at the 3 o'clock mark. Yeah, fair enough, I might move it to 6, but at £500, £565, it's pretty hard to complain. On top of all of this, they have got the proportions absolutely perfect. It comes in at 40mm in diameter, which is fit for slimmer wrists like my own. My wrists come in at 6.5 inches. I normally tap out around the 42mm mark. It just gets that little bit too chunky. It also comes in at 10.9mm in thickness, so it remains a dressy watch that slides beneath the cuff quite nicely. When I wear this watch, I wear it to work. When I'm smart casual, that's when I wear this watch. And I think that's where it's suited. So, Tissot PRX, yeah, it's good. An honourable mention when it comes to Tissot, just before we move on to number 3, is the Tissot Gentleman. Now, this comes in at £710, so yes, it is that little bit more expensive than the Tissot PRX. And personally, I would go with the Tissot PRX. I think it's a better style, and also it's that little bit cheaper for pretty much the same movement. So I'd stick with PRX. Next up, coming in at number 3, we have the Longines Hydra Conquest. This is probably the best ever entry-level diving watch. Is that my coffee, Drew? Thank you so much. I love coffee. I love being in the studio. I love talking to you guys. I love talking about watches. But anyway, the Longines Hydra Conquest. Now, the Longines Hydra Conquest is probably the best entry-level diving watch, and let me explain why. It goes to 300 meters of water resistance. It comes in a variety of different sizes, but my personal favorite is the 39 millimeters. Quite a lot of the time, these divers can be that little bit too big for my wrists, and it's annoying because they don't have the sizes to slim down. And I like the styles of them, but they just don't have those smaller sizes. It also comes in a variety of different colors, so you can pretty much take your pick of the range. There's so many different colors to choose between. And then we get to the movement of this model, which is the L.888. Now, this movement is actually fully in-house from Longines, has a 72-hour power reserve, and is COSC certified. Now, this watch comes in at £1,500, and I would argue that in the space, you will not find a watch that is better quality than that for the money. The simple fact of the matter is, when you get to £1,500 and above, you come to expect in-house movements. You come to expect that quality from the brand, and Longines has all of this in a fantastic package. Now, something that I forgot to mention about this Longines Hydra Conquest is the choice that you get between the rubber and the bracelet. Now, personally, I'm not as big a fan on Longines rubber straps, and I would put it on the bracelet because I think the bracelet is absolutely beautiful. And I'm also a little bit of a desk diver, so I wouldn't actually take this watch diving with me. I just think that, to me, the Longines Hydra Conquest is that little bit more dressy. Now, an honourable mention on the Longines front is actually the Longines Zulu Time, which was released this year in 2022. It is a GMT model, but it comes in a little bit more expensive. It comes in at £2,710. I think value for money wise, and for the purpose of this video, I would stick with the Hydra Conquest as a diving watch. It's just fantastic. And in terms of value for money, it's very hard to beat. But if you have that extra budget, I would advise to take a look because that model's pretty stunning. Next up, we have kind of an underrated brand. And the reason that I say it's underrated is because I don't think people talk about this brand enough. What they're doing for charity, the fact that they're family run, and their movements, by the way, are pretty spectacular. But it's just so coincidental that they're family run, and so are Chisholm Hunter. And Chisholm Hunter actually stock every single brand that you've seen in this video. So if you want to take a closer look at anything, make sure you click the link below. The watch I'm talking about, of course, is the Oris Aquis Caliber 400. Now, there's a plethora of sizes and colors, and I won't really go into the detail because you can just pick them yourself. But a couple of things that I love about this brand. One, it is family owned. And in an era where a lot of things are owned by conglomerates, it's not saying that they're bad in any way. But it's nice to see that fresh shoot of a family owned company coming through and making their own way. It's just a nice thing to see. Moving on to one more point about Oris as a whole before we get onto the Aquis range and what makes them such incredible diving watches. Oris, in their mantra, support ocean charities predominantly. And what these charities do is clean up our plastic and our pollution from the oceans. Now, it's undeniable that this is a huge problem, that global warming is real and pollution is affecting our way of life now. And it came very apparent to me when I was actually shooting monkeys in Bali. I was taking photos and one of them had a plastic bottle in its mouth, and that really hit it home for me. And I think if more companies acted like Oris and supported these charities, the world would be a better place. So Oris, well done. The Oris Aquis is a little bit more chunky, and actually I prefer the style of the Longines Hydra Conquest to the Aquis just personally. But where this watch really shines through for me is in the movement. It has the Oris Aquis Caliber 400 with 5 days of power and a 10-year guarantee. That is unbelievable. Let's just relate this over to cars for a second. Would a car ever give you a 10-year guarantee? This movement is of course also in-house, which is pretty phenomenal, especially when it's not a big conglomerate, it's a family-run business. It also has a ceramic bezel, goes to water resistance of 300 meters, has a screw-down crown to support that. Everything, all the bells and whistles that come with a diving watch, it has it with a pretty phenomenal movement for the money. So in number 4, we've got the Oris Aquis Caliber 400. Next up, coming in at number 5, and possibly one of my favorite watches within this video is the Tudor Blancpain, but more specifically, it's the Tudor Blancpain 58. Now, I actually don't have a Blancpain 58, but I do have a Blancpain. This watch is phenomenal. It has so much history, but let's get into some of the specs. This Tudor Blancpain 58 comes in at 39mm in diameter, which is actually why I've picked this watch. I think that 39mm is a pretty perfect measurement, and I think that 42 with the Tudor Blancpain range can just be that little bit too big, especially now that they've changed the movements to their own in-house movements. It's a little bit thicker, so when you get to the Blancpain models that are a little bit bigger and thicker, it can just be quite a chunky watch. This model is actually waterproof to 200 meters, which is quite surprising because, I mean, Longines is to 300 and so is Oris. But where this model wins really is in the style. I just think its style is that little bit more sporty, that little bit more edgy than the Longines and the Oris, the other two diving watches. The movement in this model is of course in-house and COSC certifies, and it has a 70-hour power reserve. An honourable mention for Tudor is actually the Tudor Pelagos 39mm that they released this year in 2022. Now, I won't bore you with the details because we've done a whole video on it. I'll link it up here for you, but that thing was absolutely incredible. It came in at, I think, £3,500, whereas the Tudor Blancpain 39 or 58 comes in at £3,010. So there is quite a big price jump, almost £500, but remember that it is in full titanium. Now, as I said at the start of the video, entry-level watches are subjective. People might think that an Omega or a Rolex are entry-level because the movements technically are mass-produced, but I wouldn't say so. I would say that it would be the lower end of the price point that are the entry-level luxury watches. And that is just my opinion, but I suppose it is subjective. If you disagree or you have a different point of view, then please let me know in the comments. If this video has helped and you've enjoyed, please hit that subscribe button. Drew and I in the studio here really appreciate it. And I will see you in probably about 3 days.